In the 18th century, Prague's Jewish community thrived with 9 synagogues and many study houses. However, while synagogues and schools were filled with passionate students, another institution was gaining popularity, the coffee house. From the very beginning, coffee houses were not only places to drink coffee, but also social spaces for leisure, games and discussions, a clear rival to Jewish houses of gatherings, synagogues. The minute book of the Rabbinic Court of the Holy Congregation of Prague, currently housed in the Jewish Museum of Prague, is a handwritten document of records and decisions of the Rabbinic Court. One of the first discussions in this document, dating back to around 1757, begins by taking a firm stance on coffee houses. Rabbis declared that all coffee houses in the Jewish ghetto must be immediately closed, and people should instead dedicate their time to Torah study. Wouldn't it be wonderful? The decision was recorded and distributed to all community members, but it had no effect whatsoever. After a failed attempt to ban them, the Rabbinic Court made efforts to restrict the activity of houses in Jewish areas. Therefore, the next paragraph in the minute book stated that they should be open only for an hour and only after morning services in all synagogues are finished, and then for an hour following afternoon services. Regarding Shabbat, Rabbi said, no man should dare to go to the coffee house and drink coffee there on the holy Sabbath. This is punishable with a large fine, they said. This ruling was largely ignored too. In their final entry on this topic, the Prague Beit Din provided the coffee houses with a religious stamp of approval, pointing out that attending coffee houses on Shabbat was in fact a fulfillment of the religious commandment of Oneg Shabbat, to delight in the Sabbath day. So why did I tell you this story today? This process of rabbinic decision-making isn't just a quirky piece of history. I think it's a reflection of who we are as a people. Some might see this story in a very negative light. Rabbis seemed detached from the people and failed to enforce their law. They were inconsistent and made a U-turn in response to a public pressure and disobedience. However, I see this story differently. There are 3 lessons, I think, we can draw from it. One is that Jewish people can disagree with their leadership. Our stubbornness and stiff-neckedness are well recorded throughout history, beginning with Torah. It is the opposite, the blind obedience and unconditional loyalty that we should worry about. It is the dialogue between leadership and people that should provide the foundation for mutual respect and social harmony, not the top-down rule. We must be open. The second is that we must be open to seeing potential for good and growth in all developments. And the third lesson is that the outside world shapes the Jewish community more than we tend to acknowledge. We live in a multicultural, interconnected world, not in a closed Jewish village. There are many ways of looking at Jewish history. For example, you can portray it as a positive, particularistic, and exclusive, only focusing what Jewish people did, what Jewish people invented and achieved. That view leads to arrogance. You can also present our history as a series of persecutions and misfortunes that happened to us. Slavery in Egypt, Assyrian conquest, Babylonian exile, the destruction of the first and second temples, the forceful dispersion of Jewish people around the world, and a series of persecutions and exiles from England, Spain, and other countries. Then there were many pogroms in Europe, culminating in the Holocaust. Then the State of Israel was established, which has been fighting for its survival from its very first day. If this is the only way you see our history, you begin to anticipate the next misfortune and see potential enemies everywhere. Of course, there is some truth in its portrayal of history, but this worldview also leads to a damaging and misleading way of looking at Jewish people, Judaism, and the world. There is a famous formula that's often shared about a typical Jewish festival. They wanted to kill us, we survived, let's eat. We often hear phrases like this and accept them as truth. But let's examine them. Let's examine this particular formula. Only three festivals really fit this formula: Pesach, Hanukkah, and Purim. Most of our holidays have nothing to do with persecution. Our history is far more than mere survival. I would even go further and say that the Jewish obsession with past persecutions and traumas is dangerous, and it has led us to a very dark place today. I would like to argue that our most significant moments and achievements of Jewish people came not from surviving attacks or inventing something unique, but from adapting to a changing world. We did not invent alphabet, parchment, the printing press, electricity, or the internet. But each of these inventions has reshaped the world. When each of these inventions spread, Judaism had to be revolutionized. Each time the world changed, we found a new way to be Jewish. This is our superpower. Jewish survival depends on our openness and connection to the broader world. Isolation is a path to degradation. Today, I think, we stand on the brink of many significant shifts. There are three main factors we have to consider: artificial intelligence, climate change, and war. In our lifetime, the rapid development of artificial intelligence will change our world in an unrecognizable way. AI has the potential to bring a lot of good, but also the potential to harm on an unimaginable scale. Those who gain access to new networks first will have a significant advantage over those who don't. As they say, the future is here. It is just unequally distributed. Climate change is likely to alter the map of habitable lands. Scientists predict that it will lead to mass migration and significant economic shifts. These factors are very different in nature, but both will affect the way we practice and understand Judaism. There will be many approaches to them, and only a few will pass the test of history. Therefore, we must value diversity of opinions. The presence of different theories, practices, and communities will increase the chance of Judaism to survive the test of interesting time. Diversity is the key to historical success, not uniformity. We must be united in our willingness to engage in respectful dialogue and acceptance of the other. The third factor is war. Many wars are happening as we speak, but two are particularly close to us. The war between Russia and Ukraine already feels present in British day-to-day life. But we, I think, must be ready to admit that there is a possibility that it might come even closer to our borders. Not an easy thought to contemplate, yet important to address. Another war between Israel and Hamas, and by extension other terrorist groups and Iran, has weighty effect on the Jewish community. It has already changed the way many people see us, diaspora Jews, and the State of Israel. I will focus on this war a bit more, because I know how much of us think about it, how much many of us think about it. Also, it is important to address it because we want a change in this century-long conflict. There are forces within the Jewish community and in Israel today who claim that the only way to ensure Jewish future is through force and force alone. They say that we don't need anyone else. They say that our enemies are everywhere. Is this the best way of achieving change and any hope for peace? I hope one day the Jewish world will admit that peace cannot be achieved solely through a strong hand and military might. No community, no country can live in isolation and prosper. Palestinians or anyone else should never be forced or bullied to live in peace. Achieving peace through war is a paradox from Orwell's books, not a path to coexistence in real life. This works both ways. Equally, terrorist attacks on Israel will only provoke more violence and make Israelis mistrust Palestinians even more. The State of Israel exists, and however unethical and unacceptable some of its leaders are, we must hope that Israelis will soon have a sense of security and a chance for a peaceful life. Palestinians exist too. They too deserve security, justice, and peace. A peaceful future and justice of one nation are intertwined with peaceful future and justice of the other. Whatever the practical solution will be, both Israel and Palestine deserve empathy and justice. Empathy alone is not enough. It must be combined and balanced with justice. Justice without empathy is cruel. Empathy without justice is empty. We live in an interesting time. We live in the era of the development of AI, climate change, and raging wars. We must be open to addressing it with honesty, humility, and humanity. We must be ready to adapt to the changing environment. What makes us, Jewish people, special is not the uniqueness of our history, not the genius of our inventions, not even the traumas we endured, but the ability to change. Rabbi Elazar, who lived in the 2nd century of the Common Era, his teachers lived through one of the most significant shifts in Judaism, the destruction of the Second Temple. Reflecting on this, he writes, Miyom shecharav Beit HaMikdash nin alu sharei tefillah. Since the day the temple was destroyed, the gates of prayer were locked. Many of his teachers and people from his parents' generation lost their faith in God and humanity. Prayer stopped working for many, he said. Yet he continues with this moving conclusion. ואף על פי שערי תפילה ננעלו, שערי דמעה לא ננעלו. Even though the gates of prayer were locked, the gates of tears were not locked. Changes are often associated with a sense of loss. Sometimes there are no words that can express what we think and feel. Sometimes we don't know what the solution to our problems should be. At such moments, the most basic natural response, tears, emotions, an expression of our humanity, is the best answer. Hardening of our hearts and ignoring the inner voice of empathy will only lead to others becoming increasingly hardened towards us. In times of change and uncertainty, Common humanity must be a unifying force that can bring all of us together. Yom Kippur exists to open our hearts and allow us to feel pain of others. We fast for 24 hours not because we are good Jews, but to help those who are hungry. The gates of tears, empathy, and human understanding are never locked. Paul Ricoeur, a French philosopher, came up with a helpful way of looking at change and changing times. He said that faith often begins with a simple, literal belief, such as the idea that Torah was given word for word to Moses at Mount Sinai. But we know that for many modern people, that belief is challenged by science, history, and critical thinking, which can leave them disillusioned. For Ricoeur, the Ricoeur suggests that people don't have to stop there. People can choose to see the text of our tradition not as literal facts, but as sources of meaning, wisdom, and shared identity. He called this second naivete. In Judaism, we already practice it here today. We don't see the Torah as science or history book. Nevertheless, we still find meaning in its poetry, ethics, and a vision for just and compassionate world. We didn't stop at the stage of disillusionment. This is why we are still here. We live in the era of disillusionment. Many people see cracks in old systems and a sense that the world is on the verge of shifting. Some people have given up on reversing climate change. Many Jewish people have abandoned the idea of peace and completely disengaged with Israel, and have no energy to think about the future of the world with AI. Following Ricoeur's advice, we must not stop at the stage of criticism. We must always see an opportunity for a better future. We need to make a conscious choice to search for a new vision for our world, our society, and our Judaism. We must be ready to change, to compromise, to engage. Jews once feared coffee houses, then accepted and eventually approved them, making them a part of Jewish practices. Today, we face the dilemmas of AI, climate change, and wars. We must be open to introducing changes and to ensure that we are ready for the new world. We, as a people, have every reason to be defined by the disasters we have faced. It is essential to remember that injustices of the past and find means to bear witness to them. But if we only focus on the evil inflicted on us, we become a closed, unforgiving tribe. We must not forget the extraordinary actions of compassion, the non-Jews who risked their lives to save us, the neighbors who offered refuge, the communities that embraced us when we were vulnerable refugees and exiles. We must not forget our acts of kindness towards others, the ways we have cared for one another and for the world. And perhaps most importantly, we must not overlook our own capacity to cause suffering. We must live in the world and become an integral part of it, adapting to new realities and playing our role in shaping them. This world has all that it needs to be just, compassionate, visionary, and optimistic. And people who can shape such world are sitting in front of me right now, or watching this service on their screens. We owe it to the future generations to engage, to debate, to think, and make the world they, our children and our children's children, deserve to inherit from us. May we always choose life and be inscribed and sealed in the book of life. May we be remembered not for whatever evil was done to us, but for the good we did to others. You might think I'm a naive, a dreamer of a world that does not exist. Perhaps, but I know the formula. Im tirtzu, ein zu agada. If there is a will, this will not be just a dream. Gmar Chatima Tova.